can't compete with a professional comedian. Moving on, welcome author, writer, and millennial expert Nadira Hira to the show. She's going to talk to us about how she got such a sweet job and what a millennial expert does, besides getting paid to be a smart young person.
Woo!
Nadira, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I have to ask first and foremost, what is a millennial expert and how did you get this job?
Well, I'm a poet and a bartender by trade. And I actually got to Fortune at the time that this whole millennial topic was in its ascendancy. I was one of the few millennials there, and it just was perfect because I could write about us, like myself. Anytime I was having a bit of a crisis, I'm like, this is a great story. Let's go out and think about it. And as it happened over the course of my time there, this just became a huge deal, and all these companies were interested in it, and I hit the point in my late 20s that I was like, you know, this might be the best thing, the thing to do in my actual life rather than be a journalist or do all the other real jobs, and it just happened.
That's cool. I mean, I know that I will one day be an old white dude, and the Fortune seems like a place where there would be a lot of old white dudes. Was there resistance to you coming and being, you know, this millennial expert person who really understood the you know, young people and culture?
You know, I think the reason Fortune's lasted so long is because they're willing to be open to new stuff. And it's a 75-year-old magazine started by old white dudes.
Yeah. See, I knew it.
Yes, exactly. But the fantastic thing about the way they looked at this topic was like, the point of having new people here is to talk about things that we don't know about. So they were really open to it, and they're still super supportive of my book and all the other work that I do. But I think it was a bit of a shock. It's a shock to have young people come in and say, do it differently, because everybody assumes the way they do it is the right way, and it almost never is.
What's like the top questions you get asked when you go into corporations? They're like, tell us about millennials.
Yeah, they're like, why are you always late?
That's funny.
That's awesome.
That's probably number one. Why do you wear flip-flops to interviews?
Do people really ask
interviews?
this?
Yes. Why do you bring your parents to interviews? Because that happens.
Yikes.
Why do you call
does
your
that?
Lots of people. You'd be shocked.
Dude, I'm not bringing my parents
Anywhere. My parents anywhere.
No, you'd be amazed the stories I hear. People's parents calling their orientation to ask where they are, and so then the coordinator has to go and find them in the sea of interns and say, your mom's on the phone. They'd love for you to call home.
But then do you do studies on like who is the person that wears flip-flops to an interview with their parents? Who is that guy?
It's a person who's gone to kind of the schools that we've all gone to and been told that you're wonderful and your resume speaks for itself, which, to be fair, it does, right? But they assume that their natural wonderfulness shines through when they go into that room, and they're not thinking about all the other stuff. And the fact of the matter is you don't want somebody to go in and be just corporate, but you don't want them to wear flip-flops
It's
either.
no surprise to me at all that these companies are seeking out your services, and I want to show actually some people at home a couple graphics that'll really illustrate what's going on here. So take a look at this, guys. 60% of millennials are leaving jobs in under 3 years, and on top of that, 87% of companies are saying that they're losing between $15,000 and $25,000 when they try to replace these employees.
Yeah.
Are companies trying to basically make something work? Do you think that today no longer really makes sense?
Yeah. There's no, I mean, first of all, historically, 20-somethings never stay at their jobs longer than 2 to 3 years. It's just that we're talking about it a lot more now, and there's a lot more money wrapped up in that reality. But I also think the way that companies work now, nobody stays because you can't stay. You can't count on your job to exist 10 years from now, never mind 5 years, or 20 or 30 years from now. So it's not a surprise that people are constantly trying to trade up. And the younger you are, the cheaper you are, the more mobile you are. So of course you're willing to do that if the opportunity arises. It's not a shock, really.
Are they angry at millennials? Like they're like, these kids
jealous.
coming in. See,
just-
I know.
I don't know what's going on with those crazy little kids.
Yeah, darn you. But of course, their kids are exactly like that. So their employees they hate, but their own children are out terrorizing other managers someplace else, and that's not surprising either. But I really think there's a bit of jealousy. We're raised the way our parents want it to be, and we're just getting to live that out. And sometimes it's a little obnoxious, but it's also we're getting to build our best life. And why shouldn't we do that if we can?
That's gangster. So you just
It is gangster.
You just go to these big companies and they're like, why do you kids wear flip-flops? And then they pay you for that?
Yeah, I wear funky t-shirts. People kind of are like, whoa, what's going on? I'd never do PowerPoint because I like to underscore the fact that
Somebody's
going to
figure this out and then become a competing millennial expert, and then you're going to be totally screwed. Yeah.
definitely going to go do that.
I think you're
Join
a
me.
genius.
Oh,
I mean, I
thank
think this
you.
is fantastic. Please bring this to politics, and particularly maybe Republicans, so maybe they can start giving two craps about millennials. I'd love that. Anyway, thank you to our youth whisperer, Nadira Hira, for joining us today. Her book, Misled, How a Generation of Leaders Lost the Faith, will be out later this year. After the break, we've got more Take Pride Live, so stick around.
Buy the book.
Buy the book. Buy